This is a video blog for Tuesday the 30th September WW1 project. It'll be over by Christmas. Today we're going to recap previous learning, respond to devices to exercise, create a teapot interlude movement piece, continue to explore device pieces, discuss intention and objectives for the pieces, and develop proposals for group presentations on Tuesday the 7th of October. So to start the session off, we did a quick recap of the previous session, which last session we created 3 performance pieces using stimuluses that we'd found ourselves and stimuluses that we got given. I'd worked with Frankie, Chloe, Vic, Laura, Lewis, and that's it, in all of my pieces. And I quite enjoyed certain pieces last week. There were certain pieces that I was quite angry about because I was stuck with what to create, so I didn't enjoy the piece as much. So that made me realise that I need to be better at thinking on the spot. And then after we recapped the session, we were asked, what are devices? How and why do we use devices? So in dance you can have a choreographic device, which could be, for example, a cannon. So you'd use a cannon to change the piece by cannoning a movement. You use devices for techniques. A technique is a tool to colour performance and give it different dynamics. It enhances performance and develops theatre. So then we moved on to a device workshop, which we usually do a chasse routine in dance, so we were given this routine to develop and use devices on it. So we did the usual routine, and then we got told to edit different sections to develop on the movement. So in the chasse you could do a roll on the floor or a jump in the air that would develop on that movement. So we did this, and I was put with Leah and Andy, and it was quite easy for me and Leah because we're dancers, but Andy was struggling a bit and putting less, he was giving less input, so me and Leah took control really on that. And we got asked why we thought we did that, and you get asked to use devices so that you can use them in your piece and you can develop on them. So this was good because this shows how we can develop and progress with our pieces for World War I. We then moved on to doing something that we've not done before, which we created a teapot interlude. We created an interlude 1. There'll be 2 interludes, but we created interlude 1 today. So to start off, we got with pairs, but there was odd numbering today, so I unfortunately was on my own. And we had to learn a waltz to I'm a Little Teapot, the children's nursery rhyme. So it's a very basic routine. However, some people were struggling to get the timings within the piece, as a waltz is a 3/4 count instead of 4/4. So a waltz would be something along those lines. It'd be 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. And throughout this, it was it was not difficult, but a little frustrating because we kept having to repeat the exercise as not everyone was getting it. After a while, we all managed to learn the piece well enough for the tutors to feel like we could move on. So then we developed our pieces, the teapot dances, ourselves in our pairs, and we developed little movements. So in the original piece, partner A would hold out their hand and partner B would respond to it, and then they'd jump together. So we had to develop movement on this. Now I myself came up with both partners would pull both hands out at the same time instead of one doing it individually, and then jump together straight away. So that's how you develop movement. And we went around and saw each people's different developments, and we chose one, and then we all had to learn that, which was quite simple and quite nice. And then we were told we had to create marches, so a soldier's march. Cindy showed us one march that she wanted us to do, and it was a march where you don't bend your legs and you lead with your heel. So we had to do this, and then we had to Cindy arranged us into specific places, so we'd all be in line with our partners performing the teapot dance, and we'd march into positions doing our marches. So there was 4 groups, one in that corner, one in that corner, one in that corner, and one in that corner, and we all had to we all had to create a march going into our places. My group didn't struggle. I was with Claudia, Vicky, Jess and Lewis. However, Vicky was struggling a little because she couldn't get her head around what was happening. And then we worked on our pieces, our World War I pieces, and we got given groups today, final groups for the piece. I was put with Ashley, Leah, Josh, Vicky and Frankie, and we were given the come into the factories piece and then to go into the factory line, which I was very pleased about because I did like the come into the factories piece. So we worked on this piece and I took control again, which I probably shouldn't have because I need to let other people take control, but no one was stepping up, so I decided to take control, and we kept with the original stimulus of building people up. However, because we have Josh in the group, Josh is the only man in the group, so we thought we'd use Josh to build us up, so it could symbolise that the men were teaching the women, or just the fact that there's one male in the group, all the men had gone off to war. But no matter how many men there were, how many more women there were than men, all the women listened to that one man, which is what we do. We listen to Josh. We follow what he says. So we stuck with that, and we get Josh to build us up, and then when Josh has built us up, we go and get someone and we build them up. So Josh would build Laura up, then me, then Ashley. He'd salute to say, go and continue to train other people. I would then go get Leah and build her up. And then we went into a factory line, we went into a staggered line, and we continued the movement. I'll put the video on in the same blog, and it'll say World War One. It'll be over by Christmas, first attempt. The comments of feedback we got given was the fact that we have music playing in the background, which is We'll Meet Again, which is a World War One song sang by an artist which was more known for World War Two. We got told that we jumped too early and we tried to do too much all at once and make it pretty, whereas focusing on the core of the piece. So you add music at the end of the piece when everything's set, and I jumped straight into adding the music because I thought it was a good idea. It obviously wasn't, but I put the music in because it will meet again. Like the wives of the men who'd go to war would be thinking about their husbands, so I thought it was quite a nice touch to add, but I'd just gone and jumped too early. We got told by Katie that because there's no climax in the music, it dragged the piece down with it, so that there's no element of, it's uplifting, so we need to take the music out. Spacing needs looking at, as in the second assembly of women, we have Vicky and Frankie. Now Vicky and Frankie are tall people, which means they have tall arms, so they were stood next to each other, which we didn't think about, so their arms were touching and they were squashed, so it didn't look pleasing to the eye, so we need to sort spacing out. And we got commented off Amy Millington that people's eyes were flickering open at the start of the piece, which I was very angry about because I told people to keep their eyes closed and to be like a ragdoll because you've not been woken up yet. So people were keeping their eyes open and flickering, which they need to remain shut. Josh needs to march more because he's a man from war, so he needs to look like he's marching. At the minute he's doing half-heartedly, which I can understand as it's the first attempt and not everyone's confident with the piece, but we'll get this up for him. He needs to up his game. There's no climax in the piece, which we understand this because the piece hasn't been completed, so which we did try to emphasise to people. So the original the idea for the piece is to get assembled, have one factory line, then have another factory line, and the second factory line is a climax. But unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to create that today, so we'll create that next session. The trial and errors in the piece were that the music didn't work. We tried it, it didn't work. Maybe we'll revisit it and try it again, or maybe we'll create sounds with our voices or our bodies, which would be better, because then it would be more unique and original. People not committing fully to the exercise, like Josh for example. If they're going to be in the piece, they need to commit 100%, otherwise it's not going to look good. So we'll take these into consideration when it comes to next week. We then moved on to looking at proposals for our piece. And we were asked a series of questions, so that we would, because we're presenting our proposals next week to Katie and Cindy, we need to know them inside and out. The first question we were asked: why do creative companies need to consider the following? Why do we create theatre? Our group decided we create theatre to entertain, to express, to inform, to educate, and to tell a story. The next question was: what is it you want to devise and why? What type of theatre do you want to create? Our group decided on: we want to create a performance that inspires, educates, and connects with the audience. The next question was: who are you devising for and why? We said the public. Will need to look further into this for the presentation, because the public is just too general. We need to be specific. The next question was: what are your initial aims and objectives as a company for this project? We decided our aim is to educate people. Our objectives is to research and learn more, so that we know our facts and we know what we're educating. Next question: is your content or subject matter the starting point for the work? What are the source materials? We answered: the poster is the starting point, the war is the content, as because the piece has been made around this poster. That was the starting point. The next question: is the form or structure an important preliminary area for exploration? We answered: yes, it is important, as you need to tell a story. We're doing things with meaning. So then we all talked about the presentation, and then we all assigned each other to one specific question, so that we'd only have to look at one question and then answer that just for the presentation. And then to finish off the session, we looked at strengths, weaknesses, and area to improvement. My strengths for the session were being creative, contributing, and working well with others. As if I wasn't being creative and contribution, I don't think we would have progressed as much today as we did, because no one else was stepping up to taking ownership of the piece. And working well with others, I'm able to communicate well with other people. I'm quite patient, so that means we all get along. Two weaknesses: trying to put too much together. I was trying to put far too much together within the piece, instead of taking my time and doing the research, creating process properly. Another weakness is spatial awareness. I was completely oblivious to it, as I couldn't see. I didn't step back. No one told me that they were squashed or anything. And if anyone would have spoken up, we could have sorted and resolved the issue. But we'll do this next week. One area to improve on. We all as a group really need to refine material, and we need to refine our movement so we can develop further. It needs to be neat and tidy and cleaned up. And that concludes this blog for the 30th of September.